think we're ready, Summer. Okay, good. All righty. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call the Moab City Council meeting to order on May 12th, 2026 at 6:01 p.m. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Colin, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Great job. That was so good.
I know. All right. We've got a good crowd here tonight. We're going to start off with public comments, and then we're going to have this wonderful presentation from the charter school. So I have, if anybody would like to make a public comment, please fill out a form. But right now I just have one, and it's Xander Wyckoff.
Good evening. My name is Xander Wyckoff, and I am an authorized representative of the Southern Utah Coalition of Concrete Athletes, SUCCA for short. I would like, first of all, to congratulate Mayor Langanese and Councilors Taylor and Lofton on their decisive victories at the polls last year. On that same note, I would also like to officially and directly address SUCCA's role in a controversy that has deeply shaken our local democracy. I'm referring, as I'm sure you know, to SUCCA's unprecedented decision not to endorse any candidates in this most recent election. This was not a decision we took lightly, and it involved countless hours of deliberation with our vast network of corporate sponsors, political action committees, dark money donors, heads of state, foreign intelligence agencies, and other influencers. As we all know, SUCCA has been a load-bearing pillar of our local democracy ever since the first pioneers settled here, unhitched their oxen, and repurposed their ox carts into primitive skateboards so that they could shred the slick rock ramps of these magnificent canyons, all the while dreaming of smoother, more consistent transition in a convenient in-town location. That dream is alive today. Obviously, we've had our hiccups in the past. For example, building a mega ramp out of 16 million tons of pure uranium tailings right next to the Colorado River was an historic blunder, but progress skates forward. In short, SUCCA has always been here and will always be here. And we determined that, considering our outsized influence and the monolithic voting bloc that we can command, including but not limited to rapidly aging punk rockers, adult scooter kids, sticker enthusiasts, chill dads, radical moms, cops who can kickflip, anonymous park flood refugees, and Moss Cafe employees. Given this unprecedented level of electoral influence, we determined that if we had endorsed any particular candidate or candidates, we would have risked subverting the free functioning of our democratic process. Obviously, the decrepitude of our current skate park is the single greatest issue that confronts the city of Moab. But at SUCCA, we recognize that there are other challenges and other opportunities that should be considered at the ballot box. And bestowing our endorsement prematurely could have turned the election into a single issue referendum, which surely would have done a disservice to the complexity of our local political landscape. So instead, we boldly withheld our endorsement and, not without trepidation, put our trust in the people to elect the candidates who are best prepared to seize this historic moment and encase it forever in concrete. The people spoke in a clear voice, and we suspect that our trust was not misplaced because we have received reports from our operatives embedded strategically throughout the local government that a political consensus might be building towards undertaking the construction of a new skate park. Having heard that we might be closer than ever to the realization of our historic dream, we at SUCCA have decided to once again take courageous action and announce that today, May 12th, 2026, we are officially, retroactively, and enthusiastically endorsing the winners of the 2025 mayoral and city council elections. We look forward to working with this council toward the continuing realization of a thriving community, and we offer all the considerable resources at our disposal to help move forward with building a skate park that serves the broadest possible population and stands as an enduring monument to the wisdom, guidance, and audacity of the Southern Utah Coalition of Concrete Athletes. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sandra.
That was really good. You've got your future generation of concrete people. Any other public comments? All right, we're gonna move on to our first presentation. And this is the kindergarten and first grade class from the charter school. They did a really nice science project that Colin and I were able to observe on Mill Creek. And we thought it would be really important for them to share their science project and the results of those projects with you all. So take it away, Katie.
The best place that you like.
Right here, right in the front.
Very good. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having us and inviting us to this forum. My friend, can you stand up, please? Okay, stand up. Okay. So take us a second. We brought some things for you guys to see.
Oh, what we've been using.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yes, that's important.
Okay. Gala and Henry, could you do me a favor? You're just holding this for, could you hold this way? No, this way. That's good. Hold it. Lulu, go on over that way. A lot of cats to herd, but we're getting there.
You know what that's like.
All right. Oliver. This is my friend Oliver. My name is Miss Katie, by the way, and that's all I have to say this evening. The rest is here for my friends to speak. So, Oliver, could you tell everyone here, what is citizen science?
Citizen science, if you could tell, that's what that postal says. Citizen science is when we go to the field and do science to how things in it and around it and test it.
Yay.
Moab City.
That's our spokesperson, Oliver. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver.
Griffin and my friend Line. Come on up. Meet. What? Little bit. See? Line, you hold them so that. Okay. So Griffin, I'm gonna give you important things here. Griffin, what did we use these items for? What were we studying?
We were studying how fast the fish was flowing, and so 10 feet was the tape measure. So and we counted how much seconds.
And over the 6 weeks, what was it flowing most of the time? 10 seconds. Was the creek ever in flash flood stage? No.
No.
And those are the 2 pieces of equipment you used? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yay.
underline. Remember what this thing is called? Yardstick. What did we measure at Mill Creek? What did we measure with yardstick? The depth, how deep the water was. And what did we find most often over the course of 6 weeks? How high was it most of the time? 6 inches. And how did you measure? Did you get in the creek? Did you put your feet in the creek and put the yardstick in? No, maybe some of the other friends. Somebody, raise your hand if you got in the creek and put the yardstick in to measure. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. Henry and Cindy. Okay, so these are my friends Henry and Bobby, and Henry's gonna tell you about sediment. Henry, what is sediment?
It's like particles in the water.
Particles in the water. Is it like sand and dirt and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And so what did you do with this?
You would go into the creek and scoop water in and let it sit to see if you could see the sediment.
That's right, and we recorded it. What did we notice across time, across 6 weeks? Was there a lot of sediment?
All clear.
It was all clear every time. What did you think about that? We never saw a flash flood, did we?
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of rain. Cute. So this is our friend Bodie, and Bodie's gonna tell us about the pH of Mill Creek. Bodie, what were we measuring with pH?
So measuring pH is like how much acidic it is.
The acidity of the Mill Creek water, that's right. And we dipped those little papers in. What did we find out almost definitely from
What is the clean 5 and 7 month?
And was that good?
It was good.
It was good. And who's it good for?
Long snails.
The little lung snails. How many did we find?
Tons of them.
Tons of lung snails. Good pH at the creek. Yes.
Bodie and Oliver.
So these are my friends Odie and Oliver, and Odie is going to tell us about these corridor pictures. What were we taking pictures of there, Odie? What were we taking pictures of? Each other?
The creek.
The creek. We were trying to find out if there were any changes, right? And there were changes. Odie, what were they? Can you tell the friends what they were?
No, it's getting greener.
And what did that mean? What happened? Is it changing seasons?
Yeah,
From what to what?
from winter to spring.
And what are you holding in your hand? And that's what we use to gather our data, huh? Very nice. Thank you, Odie. We have lovely drawings down here. This is the data we collected on plants and animals. Oliver, can you summarize what did we see in terms of plants and animals?
So we saw biology.
getting greener and greener. Yeah, the trees.
Oh, I see it.
What was that about, Oliver? You tell us.
We'll talk about that later.
Thank you, friend. Gala. All right. These are my friends Gala, my scientists, excuse me, my scientist friends Gala and Noah. Scientist Gala, this is drawings of the weather. What was the weather like when we went to the creek? What was the weather like? Was it?
Hello.
It was hot. Was it hot every single time we went?
Yes.
Did it ever rain? No. Was it always sunny? Every time, very consistent, huh? Yes, thank you, Gala. Okay. Noah's gonna talk about this chart at the bottom. Noah, can you tell us what this is?
The temperature.
It's a
Thermometer.
thermometer, and what does it measure?
Yeah. Temperature.
The temperature. Can you tell us how? You told me how earlier. You really explained it well.
It goes to,
Yeah. And then where did we put the thermometer when we went to the creek?
in the water.
We checked the creek temperature, didn't we? And what did we find across the 6 weeks? The temperature was mostly what?
65.
The temperature was most often 65. Very nice. And Lulu, leave that one there. Good, Lulu? Okay, and these are my scientist friends, Scientist Lulu and Scientist Hunter Moon. And Lulu, let's see, Hunter Moon actually, this is a huge globe, but we wanted to bring it. One of our favorite pieces in our class. Hunter Moon, can you tell us overall why was this project important?
This project was important because we have to keep the plants in the ground and they have
And finally, my science friend Lulu, could you tell us what were your findings? What did you discover?
So, we want anything that back. It affects water, it affects us, it affects the plant, which affects the air, which affects the universe, which affects all the galaxies. And look, in the earth underneath the earth, if we have water.
Yeah.
The water will go through.
Very good. So those are our findings. So that's in first grade class at Moab City School. It's not all of them. There's a lot more scientists over there that couldn't be here tonight. I so appreciate you having us. come by to talk about this. As you can see, they're very passionate
Yeah.
about what they do. So.
Any questions, council, for the students, the scientists? I think we learned a lot today.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you so much for the care you've taken to do your science down in the creek. And we all, we all recognize how important that creek is to town. And it's so great to have you kids out there being scientists and taking care of the creek and learning about it and teaching us about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
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 We may take our leave.
Yes.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, scientists.
Long snails? People look at long snails.
Objectively, the cutest presentation we've ever had.
This has already been the
Council.
best meeting ever.
So Michael really needs to step it up.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank
Great
you
work.
Very much.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
Johanna, how are you gonna follow that?
I know.
What? Yeah. It's impossible. Yeah.
Ben's not that cute.
Ben. Ben.
You guys have pictures?
Drawings.
Yeah, drawings. I looked at the budget for this, Steve, right? And I should have looked at like what that
Okay.
patient involved.
All right, now we get to the boring stuff. Yeah. Not really. This is very important. This,
Yeah.
okay.
I couldn't get on either.
I was having trouble. but
I had a whole log.
I had to kick everybody else off so I could get on. Hang on.
Hey, you're out.
Right,
Good,
yeah, I
good.
see what happened to me.
I think I'm on some like Utah guest
I
thing.
just had
don't
to
know what that is.
change my password.
Is that a
It
real
always
thing?
happens.
I don't know.
Oh, that's the worst.
Happens at a meeting,
Yeah.
password update.
There's some internet thing called Utah guest. I need to go on that.
That's not this
No, it should be.
public, it's public.
Yeah, I couldn't get on it.
Fine, did you get on the FBI surveillance van one
I
or?
guess so. Yeah. I had to put my credit card in. My mom's made me.
So security, then you had to buy a $200 Google
I
gift
thought
card,
it was
right?
weird, but it seemed right.
So cool to see programs like that in our schools. I know.
There's
That's why I thought it would be great for them to come
Yeah.
and you never know what kind of impact this has on kids in the long term.
Absolutely. Coming to a city council meeting? Yeah, it's huge.
My school did things like that in middle school, and we did riparian area study, and look, I ended up here. So, yeah, look. Are we ready, Summer? Ready to go. All right, you guys, we now have a presentation from the Moab Area Housing Task Force. And it's been a little bit since we've heard from you, so looking forward to hearing what's been going on and what's coming up. Got Ben Riley from HASU and Johanna, she's the chair of the Housing Task Force, correct?
And our planner.
Yeah. I'm just happy for you guys. I walked over here and I was like, is this for public comment for the budget?
Kids are really concerned.
Yeah.
I'll take that up for.
So thank you guys for having us. We hope to make this a annual check-in. We are the Housing Task Force. I'm the chair. Ben is treasurer, as he said. So the Moab Area Housing Task Force was made through an interlocal agreement in 2009 with the city, county, and HASU, with the purpose to carry out and recommend lead agencies to carry out the affordable housing plan. The main function of the task force is to create the housing plan. We did so in 2017 and 2023, and we have another one coming up around 2028. We also host educational events and can serve as an advisory role to the city and county. So for the last 2 years, we've been tabling at all the arts and ags events, answering the public's questions about housing. Last July, we hosted a housing panel. We also are advocates for affordable housing legislature and sign on to letters of support. We also maintain moabhousing.com. We've conducted 2 community-wide housing surveys, which have collected data for nonprofits to use in their grant writing efforts. And we are researching deed restriction programs and awaiting new assignments from the municipalities. So here's our organizational structure. We've got you guys on top, setting your strategic plan and adopting the affordable housing plan when they come up. Then we have our city subcommittee of the Housing Task Force, which sets their housing priorities from the affordable housing plan. From there, the staff do their best to accomplish all of those annual priorities. And then when that is impossible, the Housing Task Force can help out and assign to their committees any work. Here are our committees. We've got executive, and then we have the Housing Data Committee, which is city and county staff from planning departments mostly that collect data and then put it on moabhousing.com, which goes to the second action step, the data category in the affordable housing plan. We've got our deed restriction committee, who is looking to compile a how-to and template legal documents for residents that are wanting to voluntarily deed restrict their house. Then we have our event committee, and of course our city and county committees. So the city's been fairly involved this last year. We had a planning commissioner, a city councilor, and 2 city staff members actively attend our meetings, which are the first Thursday of the month at 11:30 in county chambers, if anybody's interested in joining. In our city committee, we had Carolyn, Miles, Caitlin, Corey, and I from the city, which is rounded out by Ben and Ronnie to make the city subcommittee. City staff has been helping out with the housing pipeline and updating that, and then also created the second housing survey last summer. City councilor Caitlin hosted a housing panel with amazing attendance. We had about 60 people from the community come out, lots of questions to our panel of people from throughout the housing sectors. So from the city committee this year, these are the priorities that they've highlighted: Walnut Lane, deed restriction administration, the land use code update, finding ongoing financial support for housing, and then the housing toolbox, which are updates to tools that we already have, like the planned affordable development or WAHU, and then investigating new tools that we might look into, like tax increment financing. The Housing Task Force priorities this year overlap quite a bit. We've got deed restriction administration up there too, ongoing housing funding as well. And then we would like to go into a revolving loan fund and get the housing dashboard up and finalized this year. Our organizational goals this year are to make a work plan with the county and city to get the goals of the 2023 affordable housing plan done or started by the time that we get to the 2028 plan. We also like to update and sign a new interlocal agreement. Along with other things, bringing the land trust in as one of the parties to that agreement. We'd like to finish the housing dashboard with the help of the county, who's now lead on that. And then we're gonna be hosting 2 events this year. One is gonna be a similar panel as last summer's. And then one thing we're almost already done with is a revamp of moabhousing.com. If you haven't seen it in a while, go log on. It's streamlined and better than ever. So our ask to you this year is to help negotiate and sign on to our new interlocal agreement, solidifying everybody's role in carrying out the affordable housing plans. We'd ask for a commitment to prioritize the housing priorities made by the city committee. We'd ask that staff continue to prepare the housing pipeline data regularly. And then when the code rewrite, when it comes up during the code rewrite, implementing the housing toolbox tools that you see fit. Okay, then I'll turn it on over to Ben.
And Johanna, this brings me to do my best Bernie Sanders impression of, like, once again, come to ask for your support. Yeah, so I looked at the budget and I see that there isn't a community contribution for housing. I just want to remind everyone that housing is still an issue. Hopefully that there's other funding out there somewhat, but you can go to the budget. The county did grant us 15.5 to do various outreach and community-centered projects and community events. And I'd say mostly our budget revolves around that. Mostly revolves around having those community events like we talked about, like Johanna talked about. We kind of envision the next one being about the housing pipeline that's in the works, potentially. I lost it. Anyway, housing pipeline, and then moabhousing.com is also another that we use those funds for. So this is a look at our budget. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I'm hopeful that the city can potentially, support housing task force. I mean, we have a lot of housing leaders in a room, and I know that sometimes the city has its own priorities, the county has its own priorities, and the housing task force has priorities too that align with the city and the county. But also, it's nice to have all the leaders of one organization or one, housing in one room, and we also have priorities too. So we'd like to be able to have some funds to get a lawyer to draft legal descriptions if we want to do a deed restriction program or a primary occupancy deed restriction programs and things like that. But also, we all as HASU and the land trust and the city, we're all kind of volunteering our time. We'd love to be able to take some of the burden off us as organizations to be able to be like, instead of me or Caitlin writing a legal document, it'd be nice to be able to outsource some of that a little bit to be able to make some of these happen. We all understand that we have capacity issues and we all have full-time jobs, and you're aware. So if you find it in your budget line items to support some housing, we would appreciate $10,000 to the housing task force, really for community events like we put on last summer, and one this year about the pipeline, and I can't remember what the other thing was.
Yeah,
So,
legal help, yeah.
So that's our budget. I'm the treasurer. You guys know who I am. So
Did a good job as treasurer.
thanks.
Any question? Are you guys done?
I got one more. We've got an update on the pipeline. This was done just 2 hours ago. So very updated. We have 57 units that are recently built. We define recently built as within the last year. Then we have 678 building permits that are active. We have a few projects that are phased. So this is, I'm still working on breaking out phases. So if you see Abby and Lions back, that could be perhaps a little misleading. But then we move on to building permit holds. That is when we don't see any movement for about 6 months. Then an application is put on hold. Down to vesting approval, which means they're ready for building permits whenever they've gone to a planning commission or they've been approved through DRT and they are ready to go. Then vesting application is they're vested under their current code, but are not ready to move on to building permit quite yet. And then proposed, those either have a pre-application in, or we've been in talks with those developers. Yeah, and then at the bottom, it's a little cut off, but we have our active employment household units sitting around 178, and then our affordable units defined as below 80% AMI is 232.
And I would just add that I feel like this it involves a discussion all on its own from somebody that's in the housing arena. You know, at some point, I think it'd be worth the council's time to really look at the pipeline when the city and the county has furnished all of their data and really take a look at what is coming online. I think it's very powerful to somebody that's in the industry. I mean, so it warrants its own discussion at some point.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. All right, moving on to department head update. We don't have any. And we have 2 items on our consent agenda: approval of the minutes, April 28, 2026, regular meeting, approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $705,280.27. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Jason, second by Tawny. Any discussion, Jason?
No.
Tawny?
Nope.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving on to our general business. We're going to start out with a presentation of vehicle sponsorship responses to the RFP. You recall a couple of meetings ago, we put out an RFP for vehicle sponsorship. We have Jeep representatives here. If you guys wouldn't mind coming up and introducing yourselves, and then Michael will just start off, and then we can hear from Jeep and go from there.
Hello, my name is Nicole Pastelli. I'm the head of marketing for the Jeep brand in the US.
Hi, my name is Nate Bulow. I lead marketing for all of Stellantis Chrysler Dodge Jeep. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your consideration on this.
And thank you for being here. They actually probably weren't going to tell you this, but their flight was canceled from Denver to Grand Junction. And so they got in a car. Was it a Jeep?
Yeah.
And drove here from there. So,
Oh,
wow.
So we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to present this today because this it's been a long time coming. This is something that we've been talking about for a while, and we haven't been able to really talk about the proposal just yet because it's been under review. We've been talking a lot about it, and we're going to present it here to you and to the public for the first time tonight. So the city received only one proposal. It was from the Stellantis Corporation through Jeep. It was specifically Jeep that submitted it. And we're going to talk about that tonight. There won't be a decision tonight. We're not asking you to make a decision, but we'd love to get your feedback. And what we are looking for is whether or not we're going to move forward with this. And the next step would be to start creating a contract with Jeep and start working towards that based on the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So obviously Jeep and Moab have a long history. I pulled this from their website. This is a picture from, I think, the first Jeep Safari in 1967, used by permission, right? Okay. So it's been going on for a long time. This relationship has, I think Jeep and Moab are pretty synonymous. There's a lot of ties here in the community. They have a lot to do with our tourism. There's a big portion of our tourism that has to do with Jeep, and it has been for a very long time now. This proposal from Jeep is formalizing something that I think they've been doing for a while, which is supporting our community in lots of different ways. But this is going to help with direct financial investment to the community, to Moab, sustain global marketing exposure for Moab, tourism demand generation, trail stewardship, which will continue, and community and business integration into their websites and their programs that they already run, which we're super excited about. The sponsorship offer, and I'll go through this pretty quick so we can hear from Jeep, but we should talk about what the offer is, the proposal, I should say, which is a cash amount every year of $125,000. That would be unrestricted. That money would go into our general fund and could be used for whatever the city council would like to use that for. They could also loan us 5 Jeeps for the term of the contract. They would be Jeep brand vehicles. We would be able to work with them on which vehicles would work best for us. This is also a financial positive for us because we do use a lot of vehicles, and this would limit the number of vehicles we have to purchase or allow us to sell some vehicles that we own that we've been hanging on to for a little while. The next thing would be continued trail stewardship. Jeep continually works with the BLM and Red Rock 4x4 and lots of other groups, and they would continue to do that. And my understanding is that we would also be considered as part of the sponsors of that work that is going on, as being a partner with Jeep, which we do partner with a lot of these things, but we would be involved in the things that they're doing as well. They would sponsor 2 and promote 2 community events for the city of Moab, and those would be events that we could choose, and we would work on what that sponsorship looks like. But there's a lot of different things that we could do, and this is in addition to that $125,000, and we would work all of these things out through contract. But we could pick two events that we already have. We could do 2 new events. There's lots of different things that we could talk about, but Jeep would be there to support those for us, and they'd be at our request. They defer to us on which events those were. The big thing here, the big money item, is that they would guarantee that they would do 2 media commercials per year at the expense of about $10 million that would promote Moab directly. And I think we're not talking about social media here. We're talking about like commercials. And
It would be a mixture of media types. So TV is obviously a big part of what we do. What will help get the broadest reach, but yeah, it would be across.
Okay.
So video is a huge part. So
right. And then there's also the social media part, which they're talking about doing 2 videos per year that they would put out on all of their channels, and this is what we're looking at here. So obviously they have a global reach. They're recognized around the world as Jeep, as the definitely in Moab as the outdoor leader in 4x4s, and they want to be the official 4x4 of Moab. So the sponsorship for media would be 2 professionally produced videos annually. They would work with us on social media posts. We would be on their website, which we already are. If you go on their website and you look at if you go on and look at the 60th anniversary for the Jeep Safari, there's a lot of information on their website already about Moab downtown, lots of different things, which I think they would integrate us continually into those things. And they would also work with partner channels and other things like that. They're estimating the support to be about $11.3 million annually, which is it's a lot of money. It would be a big support for the city. I think this is a really important thing for the council to consider, because it meets a lot of the goals that the council has and that we have as staff in trying to manage the city. First of all, it's financial support. This is a really important thing for us to be looking at opportunities where we can partner with corporate sponsors who have the same values as we do, who are integrated into the community already, and where it just really makes sense. And they have an opportunity to give back to the community, which is really important. The visibility for Moab, all of the advertising, which I'll show you in just a second, one of the things that they did, but the way their reach is obviously way bigger than ours. I think they have millions and millions of followers on their social media channels. So their reach is much bigger than ours, and they'd be able to promote us, not just Moab, the trails and things like I'm going to show you in a minute, but downtown Moab. What do you do when you're here and you're going off in the backcountry in the evenings? Where do you go eat? How do you fly into Moab? How do you rent a Jeep? All those types of things. So the corporate partnership I already talked about, and the give back to the community I already talked about. But those are the main things that I think are really the most important things of this opportunity that's being presented to us here today. This is a video I'll show you. I'm not actually going to show you the video, but because Summer assured me it would just mess everything up, and yeah. So you guys probably know this video. Nicole and Nate, you guys probably know this video. You're familiar with it, but I've watched this a couple of times, and I'd encourage anybody to go on YouTube and just search for Jeep 60th anniversary Moab, and there's a few of these videos and a few other things that they have produced as well. This video here has a few of these, I guess we call them influencers. I'm not familiar with these guys, but influencers who have made these videos for Jeep, and they're talking specifically about our downtown. They're talking about places to eat, places to camp. They're talking about the airport, how to fly into Moab, how to rent a Jeep, where to camp, all kinds of things for the hotels, everything. And it goes on for several minutes, and it's very, very informative and obviously well produced. When I looked at this morning, I think there was about 350,000 views on this thing. So pretty interesting, pretty far reach, and really excited to hear what Jeep has to say and how they would like to support the city of Moab. But we'll let them do that, and then we'll have a conversation and see where we go from there.
I would just say high level. Michael did a phenomenal job of summarizing the proposal that we returned. Our brand loves this place. Our people love this place. To give you a quick summation, when we come out to EJS every year, it's an annual pilgrimage for many of us. We've done it for a number of times, as well as personal trips. But it's an absolute battle to see who's going to go. How do I get out here? How do I get on the list? And I think that passion isn't because you've got a lot of corporate folks that just want a trip away from the office. It's because there's a real love for the city of Moab and what it represents for us, what it represents for our brand, what it represents for our customers. And that's why we wanted to have the discussion on it. And again, thank you for the opportunity. The big thing I would add to that is we don't pretend to be experts in what's important to the city and what matters for the citizens and all of that. That's why we want to partner with all of you and define those terms, finding the ways to best benefit it, and best benefit our customers, our future customers, your citizenry, to make it the most impactful.
Questions? No, I don't have a question. I want to say thank you. You know, this is an amazing product. It's amazing thing what you guys have done. You know, I've been in Moab for 35 years, but I started out from northern Utah, coming down here jeeping in a CJ5. Yeah. You know, when I was 8 years old, you know, and stuff. And that's a lot of the reasons why I'm here is because of those trips in a CJ5, you know, in the 80s and stuff. And so I think like what you're doing and what you're talking about is it's very close to my heart. I was in Salt Lake today, and I just want to share this really quickly. I was in Salt Lake today, and I was talking to this guy, and I'm like, he's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Moab." He goes, "Moab." He goes, "I haven't been to Moab for years. I was just telling my buddies we should go to Moab and stuff." He goes, "I haven't been there since I went jeeping down there about 5 years ago, and I proposed to my wife on the Moab Rim after we jeeped to the top of it." And I'm dead serious. This happened today. The story today, you know, and stuff. And so, you know, like, I think it's good for you guys as a product, but it also, I appreciate your giving back to a community that that was built upon, you know, a mining heritage, you know, a backcountry heritage, and Jeep is very much synonymous with Moab, just as much as, as mountain biking is with the Slick Rock Bike Trail, and stuff, or, or J rigs on the Colorado River rafting, and stuff. And so you're very much a part of the legacy of what, Moab might not have been what it was, but wasn't for Jeeps being able to take miners up to look for uranium in the hills, and stuff. And so, so I appreciate you guys, looking at this and being willing to be a part of our community. I said this right after Easter Japes, EJS in this meeting, thanking, everything that happened during Jeep Safari Week, and specifically the Jeep brand for that absolutely amazing drone show that everybody in town was on their porches watching and going like, this is awesome. And I think a lot of people were like, wow, these guys are part of the community, these guys, and they did this for the community. So I appreciate your guys's love of Moab and for this really amazing proposal.
Anybody else?
I would just add that it feels like to me that Moab is getting the better end of this. I mean, I think we're finally formalizing a long-term relationship, and I will be proud to support this when it comes around.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, and I was proposed to in a Jeep Cherokee.
We want all your stories for sale.
Yeah, there you go.
I lived in one for 3 months. But I think it's also important to put out there too, because Moab loves its backcountry, and we love protecting our backcountry. And I think it's really important to know that that Jeep has done a ton of advocacy to protect and sustain our backcountry. And I think that that is it needs to be said, that because there could be people like, oh, but Jeep has been a very good partner in protecting, backcountry.
Well, that was the note I wanted to hit. I really echo a lot of what you guys have to say, and I'm just very, very grateful that we're able to formalize this, that you're willing to put quite a bit towards our community. And I'm really excited because you guys have done a lot for stewardship and for trail maintenance and otherwise. And I'd love to see that make its way into some of the marketing and kind of include in this whole thing, come to Moab, enjoy our space and preserve it for future generations to come out here and do the same thing. Like I see that picture of the first Jeep Safari and I think about how, it was my parents' adventurous spirit that dragged me out here, and now I'm here, and, and the cycle perpetuates itself. And I love that you guys are a part of that. I'd love to make sure that, as we move forward, that the marketing is done in such a way that we're encouraging people to come here and we're encouraging people to care for Moab. But yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. We'll echo. We're excited you're here. One, has Jeep or Stellantis done a partnership in this way before?
We were just talking about this in my hair. We haven't. This is the first time. And it's funny because we've been talking about this for probably 5 years. And we're just waiting for the right moment. And it's our 85th and the 60th anniversary of Easter Jeep Safari. So it seemed like the right moment to ask the question. So we're very grateful that you were open to having the conversation and putting out the RFP. But yeah, this will be our first. And we actually were doing research to see if any manufacturer has partnered with a city before. And we're not sure. We don't know the answer, but we're digging into that.
Cool. Thanks. And then these will probably come over time as we're getting to contract and actually starting to partner. But some of my questions are about, what does it look like for Moab City to be promoted on Jeep.com? How do we start making decisions about other businesses and, things and people within the city that get promoted?
Yeah. And like you said, this is stuff we'll work on it sounds like we will be moving forward, working on a contract, and that will come back to you and you'll be able to see how that stuff works. But can I say a few more things, or did you have?
Yeah, I have something I wanted to say, but go ahead.
Okay. So just before we're all finished up, I just want to say, there really is this symbiosis between Jeep and Moab, and it's not it's simply not just that Jeep. There's a lot of Jeeps down here. There's symbiosis between the way that they care for the backcountry and the way that the people in Moab care for the backcountry and the work that they're doing. So I think all these things you guys are bringing up are very important, and I know they're very important to Jeep as well. And a lot of what they focus on in their videos when you watch them is caring for the backcountry to keep these trails open, stay on trails, and things like that. So we really appreciate that. Anyways, I'll tell you what the process would be from here. If that's okay, we would just go back and we would start working on a contract. They're going to propose a contract to us because this is a first. I do think that this is an opportunity for the city to not only do a first, but to also see we're cutting edge on this with Jeep, but to also see where this leads us. What else could come out of something like this that could be positive for the city? And I think that is where it all comes down to. It has to be positive for the city. And I'm recommending this to the city council here today because I do think this is very positive for the city. And I do not see a downside to this partnership. We do have a lot to talk about, but look forward to having those discussions. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. So if you have a chance to watch the videos, I would encourage you to do that. One of the things that I really liked, we were talking about preservation and conservation of the backcountry, but I really enjoyed the videos of you guys downtown, of your influencers.
Yeah.
Going to the Moab Diner and saying, and after a busy day of jeeping, you could go get a milkshake, and they're right in front of Moab Diner, and you can go to the food truck park and get a hot dog. I mean, I really liked that piece, and I think that could really benefit the city from a sales tax perspective to get people to know what we offer in the community as opposed to what, along with what we do out in the backcountry. But I did want to, you guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but Jeep was probably responsible for the founding of Canyonlands National Park.
I don't know that story.
Yes,
No.
it's a story. I'll have to tell you, put it on social media.
That'd be great.
But Bates Wilson was the superintendent of Arches, and he was known as the father of Canyonlands. And his son Tug, at 14 years old, bought a Jeep, and that allowed them to go down into the Needles, into the back country of Canyonlands National Park. That started the whole conversation of making Canyonlands a national park. So there's a lot more to that story, and it would be really cool to have you talk to Tug Wilson, who's Bates Wilson's son. So anyway, as we were talking, I was thinking, I bet they don't know that.
Nicole and I have an assignment.
And we actually have another video to share with you that we'll send the council. Is we did a Jeep people story with George, who leads the Red Rock Four Wheelers, and he told the history of his father and how Red Rock Four Wheelers came about,
Oh, that's great.
and how they work in the community, and a little bit of a tearjerker. But it's an amazing story just about the history of him and his family and how he grew up driving Jeep vehicles here in Moab. So it's
Great.
beautiful.
Good.
So we'll be pushing that out on our social channels as well in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
Finalizing all the legal pieces.
Good. Any idea when we think we might have
Yeah.
this before the council for
So-
consideration?
Yes, it's going to be at least a month. We need a little bit of time. This has to go through lawyers and everything, and we have to work a few things out. But if everything is acceptable to you the way that it was presented, our goal will be to get that into a contract so that it has all of those things and then covers all the bases that we need to cover for each entity. I do think it's going to take about 4 weeks to do that. So.
Yeah, and I would like to suggest that when we do our 2-2-1s, that if we can have kind of go over the specifics. So if you guys have some additional comments or suggestions that you'd like to make before it comes before us in public, that would be great.
Yeah, I guess, is there negotiation in the sponsorship offer?
There absolutely, that's always part of it. If that's something you'd like me to talk to them about, then we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's have that conversation when we meet in the next month. But, you saw what's being proposed, and if there's other things that you guys think of, we can also get that to Michael, and he can, talk to the Jeep folks about that.
Yeah, I would just say at a high level, we really want to be real partners. We don't want to just put our logo on Lions back or something. We want to figure it out together. So
Yeah.
Great.
we
Very
appreciate the opportunity.
Very good. So do we.
I will say that in a public meeting that when you guys talk about negotiations, I will probably refrain and not be a part of those discussions.
Okay.
So anyways.
That's fine.
Fair enough. You know, I just.
Do you
yeah,
want to explain? some-
Yeah, so.
We've done our research.
Oh, yeah.
I did, yeah.
You guys did. Yeah,
Already.
so I just, you know, in the public forum, like, I do own a Jeep rental company. I've owned one for 25 years, probably one of the oldest Jeep rental companies in town. And so, and I just think it would probably not be appropriate for, I just don't want anything to be, you know, that
Sure.
end of it and stuff. So I want it to be
Yep. Thanks.
fair for the community.
Yep. Thanks for disclosing that. I think we all knew that. Right.
Yeah, but I just
That's why
wanted,
I
like,
figured you wanted to go.
I just wanted to be like, in a public forum that I. So.
Great. Anything else? All right. Thanks, you guys. I hope you can get
Thank you.
drive home safe. It's a beautiful
Hopefully
drive.
we'll get a chance to talk to you guys.
Excellent.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Next, we have item 6.2, presentation of the 2-year City of Moab Capital Improvement Plan.
Okay. So on this one, I presented the CIP to you before, and it was asked if we do a 2-year plan, and yes, we do. It is draft. I would like to get to a point where the council actually approves a 2-year plan, or potentially even a 5-year plan. We're still kind of working towards some of those things, but we do look at things in longer terms than just the next 12 months. And so tonight I'm going to present to you what we think the CIP looks like for the next 2 years. One of the themes from this that you'll see is that, and you'll see it in the budget that I presented to you as well, is that the first year, which is the year coming up that I'm asking you to approve tonight, and another item, is really a year of planning and getting projects ready, doing some projects, and we'll go over those, but getting as many shovel-ready projects, I was going to say on the ground, but on paper, ready to go as possible, so that we can be ready to apply for grants, to go after federal allocations, to look for funding in other ways as well, and do some meaningful projects in the next few years, like we have in the last few years, actually. But it does take a little bit of time to get everything together. Levi and Obi are here tonight, and if you have questions when we get down to those portions or anything for them during the time, just let me know and we'll bring them up. But I'll just go through this and then just let me know when you do have questions. So trying to get it to where I can actually see. All right, so I'm going to jump over the revenue really quick because I want to talk about the expenses first. So in the first year, we have a total revised expense for CIP of about $7.3 million. And if you recall from the last presentation, it was quite a bit higher. And I kind of had to do some reckoning and really think about this and think, what are we really going to do this year? And I think that this is a good representation of what we could potentially accomplish in the coming year. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but if you have questions, again, stop me. So the streets project is the concrete project that already exists, plus another $200,000 that can go to specialized concrete projects where we see problems that are outside of that larger project. So that's a total of $550,000. I won't name all the prices. I'm just going to go through them really quickly. 100 West is actually designed for 100 West, and that would be a project that would continue on into the next year. You can see it's 250 in the first year and 5 million in the second year. The first year is design. Same thing with the bridge improvements for 300 South. Now this one was in stormwater, but I have moved it over to CIP in the 10 or the 41 fund, because it's not just stormwater, it's roads and it's other utilities as well that have to do with this project. So the year that we're in right now is finishing up the design. The year after would be building, hopefully, and that's a $12 million project. And you're going to see these things add up pretty quickly. So the next one is 100 North Street improvements. This one actually is on the ground improvements for this year. The plan is to do some sort of pavement revitalization on 100 North from 100 East up, which I believe is, no, we ended, I think, at 200 East with the project, the downtown dispersed parking project. So continuing up the rest of the street to 400 East, working on parking, and then also working on sidewalks and curb and gutter, curb ramps, things like that. And this is an allocation to move forward with those things. And again, that's not just planning, that is actually implementation. The 400 East road improvements, this is a big one because this is probably our biggest road design project that we're going to be looking at, because it's long. There's a lot going on with it, and there's likely some changes that are more drastic than we're going to see in other places. For instance, looking at the Mill Creek intersection on 400 East and what the future is of that, and how the interaction is with the high school, and is that working, and the trails, and lots of different things going on there. So and then we also have water and sewer that go into this, and storm drain that go into this as well. So the design is a little bit more on this one, and then the project's a little bit more on than what you see on 100 West. So we're looking at about $500,000 in design, and that's again everything: sewer, water, storm drain, pedestrian, complete streets, everything. And the project, based on estimates from recent projects, it could be as much as $10 million, but obviously the second year is an estimate. Part of the reason why we need to design these things first is so that we can get a real estimate from the engineers once it's designed, so that when we do go out to get loans and things like that, we actually know exactly what it's going to cost. But as of today, those are estimates. The overlay is actually doing an overlay. That's $650,000 of being able to overlay a street or a portion of a street. For this price, it's probably just a portion of a street, or a smaller street. Not quite as long as what we did for Mill Creek, but the same kind of project where we went in and milled down and then filled it back in with asphalt, so it looks like a brand new street from the gutter, curb and gutter, to the other side of the curb and gutter. And then the year after, it'd be a similar, following up with more overlays as maintenance is required. So heading down, and then I'll talk about bonding in just a minute here, and I'm not getting away from that or ignoring the fact that next year's projected budget is $45 million or $43 million, and how we're going to pay for that. I will talk about that. We have a few improvements that are happening at this building. The Center Street Gym we talked about, the mechanical over there this year. The bike structure is actually being installed, and this is actually just the EVSE equipment. This is the electric vehicle equipment for future electric vehicles that the city will have. And then we have the ball field design. In the second year, we've got the ball field construction. Again, just an estimate there, but about $3.5 million. It depends on what we do. And again, that's why we need to go through the design process first. Dark Sky Capital is just continuing to move forward with the improvements that we need to make on our infrastructure to have our buildings be dark sky compliant. The next one down where it says Main Street to 500 West, this is what we call the Cross Creeks project. This is the area where you separate from 100 West and you go along Mill Creek, and it connects to Pack Creek, connects in there as well, and you come out at 5th West. That area's been closed for a while because of some damage to some bridges and things like that. And we are working on a design right now. In fact, we're ready to go to the public with a concept for how we think we can design a facility that goes through that area that provides more stormwater flow, that also provides active transportation connections and several other things as well. We need to go from the concept where we are right now, which the council budgeted for, and we're finishing up that project, and we will be presenting this to you soon, but to actually designing something for that area so that we can move that towards a shovel-ready project as well, so that area can be opened up again for pedestrian bike connection, as well as working on some of the other facilities down in that area. The estimate right now, and this is again from Main Street to 500 West, not from 100 West to 500 West. And that's an important distinction, because we go from Main Street to 100 West is very, very urban. It's very narrow and the buildings are right up next to it to past 100 West where the creek starts to spread out and fan out. And that's just what it does down there. So we're talking about two different types of improvements and a pretty big price tag, but it's probably going to be in that ballpark, especially when we consider bridges and things like that.
And Michael, when and how do you suspect that will go public? Will that come to council? Will it be a public, like an engagement process? Or?
Yeah, so the concept we're talking about right now is being talked to with stakeholders, meaning the property owners in the area. And our staff is scheduling a public meeting to have an open house, and then it will come to the council, and the council will be informed about all of the feedback that we received from the public. And then from there, we'll get direction on if we are to proceed with the design down in that area.
Thank you.
The next one I think is something people have been waiting for. We heard somebody talk about it today, which is the Swanee Park improvements. Now I've upgraded this one a little bit. Last time you saw it was $50,000 and now it's $250,000. And the reason for that is that after talking to some people and learning about not learning about, but just becoming more aware of some we already were aware of the needs. Sorry, I started this off like this, but just talking more about the timeline of this thing for the skate park is what I'm talking about. We think that what we should do down here and what I'm proposing with this budget is to actually do a master plan for the project for Swanee Park, but do that master plan. We already know what Swanee Park is. Do it to the level that we can confirm everything we need to confirm about the use of the park, and then set if the skate park is to stay part of the park, which it's probably going to be proposed that it is staying part of the park, that we separate at that point and the skate park gets designed separately. So this is actually two projects. One is a master plan for the park so that we're totally upfront and we're informing everybody of how we see the park developing or staying the same going towards the future and what kind of improvements we can think about. And then also if the skate park is staying there, how a new skate park, maybe a larger skate park, will interact with the rest of the park and not diminish the activities at the rest of the park. Once that is done, then the rest of the project is actually the design of the skate park, and it probably have lots of different amenities like a skate park. There's a lot of other different things down there that we'd probably throw in. We are looking at a grant for this, a $200,000 grant for this, and then another $50,000 would be the city's match. So that's one of the big changes this year that I put in there and that I'm recommending. And then the year after, we've got that $2 million, and I'll show you here in a minute. But with all of these projects, I have let me highlight it. I've kind of estimated out in the following years kind of where that money would come from. And on this one, you can see it's this line right here that's highlighted, $2 million, most likely coming from grants. I don't want to portray here today that there's enough money in RAP tax or enough money in the CIP fund balance to construct the park today, but we definitely can get on with the design of it. And with the design, we can apply for grants and start looking for the resources. And that could also always be moved over into bonds, other types of things like that. But I just wanted to put that out there as far as resources go. So that's one change for this year. The rest of it should go pretty quickly. I'm going to jump past these ones. Lion Parks Access, that's a grant that was granted quite a long time ago before Alexi and I were doing what we're doing now. It's for non-motorized access on the Lions Park side of the park. I did not budget anything in the year after. This is just for the exploration of that, and kind of see where that goes, and then look at the next year.
So that's a grant that we've already received funds for. We just haven't never.
I believe it's a reimbursement. The funds are available to us.
Okay.
So And then I've talked to you about the MRAC. We've got a lot of improvements going on the MRAC this year. Some other major maintenance projects on the outside of the MRAC that we have talked about previously. And then the outdoor water feature replacement. We did have that in the following year. We moved that to this coming year because we think we can get that done in this coming year. And then the Pack Creek Bridge is moving forward. The property acquisition, this is just one of the things that I recommend is that we always have $200,000 in that account, just in case a small piece of property or an easement comes up that we can purchase to continue a trail somewhere or get some right of way that we need to expand trails and things like that. Golf course, I know we're going to talk about that later. And the USU building is just the remnant of the traffic light up there. Transfer to fleet fund. The CIP has always paid for vehicles. This is no different. It's just now being transferred to the fleet fund. Any questions on the regular CIP before I do water?
Oh, I did, about the playground, is that for the, youth circle or,
For the Mountain View?
yeah, the Mountain View?
It's not actually. I believe that they already have facilities to put into that playground that they're planning on putting in that we already own. I don't believe there's a plan right now. Hey, we should do a master plan on that one actually. But I don't believe there's a plan to put in a new feature like was in there before. I think it's being replaced with a, do you want to come up here?
We removed the dilapidated merry-go-round. We replaced the aged swings. In replace of the merry-go-round, we're putting a picnic table, a new picnic table for the kids to enjoy.
They can't go around.
Spin around.
They can jump off of it. They can
Go under it.
They can go under it.
Taking a monkey bar picnic table.
Yeah.
They will never know the joy of flying off one of those
But-
metal things in July.
But this brings up, this does bring up a point that we do have aging infrastructure. We've got a lot of deferred maintenance. This was a deferred maintenance issue that turned into a safety issue that we had to take care of pretty quickly. But the master plan, I believe, addresses these things, and we should be bringing back some projects to actually bring some of these older parks up into compliance or more fun, make them more fun at least. So
It's like for Father's Day, when you get your motorcycle taken away and they give you some garden shovels or something. It's kind of the same thing.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
The shovel's safer, Jason.
What's currently in the proposed budget is a pouring place for Rotary Park like we have at Swanee.
Okay.
Yeah, for the
So
playground.
that soft fall stuff, that's really nice.
At that youth circle or whatever it is, or that part.
Rotary.
At Rotary, yes.
Yeah, thank you. That was my goal, was what was that 40,000 for? So, thank you.
Is there appetite to put in the budget some, some playground equipment for that circle? I mean, because it sounds like it gets used a lot. And is there,
We might be able to figure something out with our existing budget. We could do some research on that. And if I agree, we need to look at this and see if maybe there's something we can give back since we took something away. But we might be able to handle it with the existing budget in the current year, actually. And if we can't, the next year's, we'll try to do it with that. And if we have to do an amendment, we can bring an amendment back to you. But weren't you talking about a swing set down there?
We replaced the two dilapidated swings.
Okay, so you did
Yeah.
replace the swings.
We did hear from one citizen, their kids did use the merry-go-round. Outside of that, the rest of the feedback we received was kids playing soccer and football in the grass area. I'm sure if we put some playground
you're
equipment
gonna have
there, it would get used.
ask 20 people, you get 20 different
Right.
ideas on what to do with that area and stuff. So, okay. Billy, we done? We have some questions.
Yeah, I was after your questions, I do want to go back and talk about bonds and where the revenue is going to come from to do these projects. So, but yes, we're ready for questions.
So I guess my questions is in this budget, did we budget into one of the 50 different budgets that we have, and I apologize if it's somewhere else, like putting in the flashing hawk lights. I think that's you know, like down by Spitfire and up by like we talked about 3 different locations and stuff. Is that in the CIB budget, or is that in like the roads budget, and did we budget for those?
The roads budget definitely has money for maintenance. We haven't developed those projects yet, so the actual dollars for those specific projects are not like allocated in here, but there is money in the budget for those types of projects. We need to design those. We don't know what the cost will be for each one of those yet. But it is something that can be handled within the current budget.
Okay. All right.
Within the proposed budget, I'm sorry.
Within the proposed budget for 26, or for what's left over of 25?
For the proposed budget for 27.
Okay. Okay. And then when you have things like, which we'll be talking about a little bit, like golf course capital improvements, 150,000, where's that coming from?
That is simply coming from CIP, which is coming from property tax. Now that money is supposed to be a loan. Now that money, the $150,000, now we're going to talk about the lease later, but if that were to go forward, that money would be available for a loan to the golf club, our leasee, to do capital improvements on the golf course, and they would pay that back over the period of their lease.
So when we're approving this budget, we're approving that money coming out of property tax?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess that would be something that I personally would have heartburn over, that coming out of that pot, if you will, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I just have issue with that, I guess. And if it's coming out of like the general fund or another fund or something, or I just have issue with that pot being used for a loan for that. I'm just gonna say, so I don't know if there's some of this other stuff, like the property acquisition, is that coming out of the property tax pot too?
Yes,
So,
that's
okay.
CIP.
But that doesn't mean we're gonna spend it either.
No, but we're approving it. By doing this, we're approving it to come out of that budget. That's what
Well, I think it's good to talk about what resources we have in the CIP, because we only have a few resources. We have property tax, which is the biggest resource, which you can see here, transfer from the general fund, which is $3.6 million. Actually, let's go to this year. Sorry. Of all of the transfers, the biggest amount comes from the property tax. This amount down here, this 1.622 million, is property tax that is held in reserve from the previous year. So that is the majority of where our money comes from for the CIP. All of these other projects where you see transfer from stormwater, transfers from sewer, transfer from water, those are going to pay for specifically water infrastructure that is embedded within larger projects like 400 East and 100 West and things like that. And that money can only be used for those types of facilities. So really, though, property tax is our main, by far, our main funder or resource for the CIP.
But when you're talking about like the pool, like the playground, water thing that's the kids play on, is that coming from RAP tax, or that's coming from CIP?
It's coming from RAP tax.
Okay. So there's a transfer from RAP tax that goes to pay for things like that.
Yeah, and
that's what I just didn't.
Yeah, so that's what we're seeing these transfers for, is the ones that qualify, where we do have a qualifying project that another fund's restricted funds can be used for. We transfer that money into here to pay for it.
Keep in mind also with the property tax goes into the general fund. And we just, as a council, wanted all that money to go to CIP projects. So the money, even though it's, that's how much money we collect, it goes into the general fund. And then we take that same amount of money and transfer it into the CIP, because that's where we want all
Right.
the money to go.
I just want to be very careful, like with the CIP projects, what gets allocated for that property tax fund, I think is important to me. But anyway, move on.
So just talking about resources, since we're there, like I said, the majority of the resources comes from the property tax. There are other resources we're talking about in the first year, like grants, and this would be the payment from the golf course if they were to pull out $150,000, if you even give them the opportunity to do that, because we do have to talk about the lease. This is not something that's available to them today, but with a new lease, that could be there. And then we have interest and things like that. The big thing I want to talk about is in the coming year, if we could do all of these projects in the coming year, which is probably unlikely, but we're trying to get to a point where if we had the funding to do it, we could do it. In order to do that, we have to pull resources. We have to figure out how to get the resources into our budget that are, 4 times more or 8 times more than what we, hold on, now I'm feeling bad because I can't do math, but it's somewhere in that range. So it's a lot more money in the next year. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a bond potentially for $15 million, 15 million plus, but it also requires us getting grants as well. And we're talking about grants as well as federal allocations and things like that coming in. And then when you come down here and you look at the transfers from RAP tax and from roads funds and things like that, these are things we need to talk about as well, because for instance, let's go down and let's see what RAP tax is paying for in the next year. And this computer is moving really slow. So if you follow RAP tax down to the expenses, we've got $3.5 million here for RAP tax that is potentially the funding for the ballpark upgrades. Now, the RAP tax doesn't have that much money in it. This is why it has to be draft. The RAP tax, if it were to come up with that money, it'd have to bond for it as well. So there's lots of different things that we need to consider, and there's lots of variations where these could happen, but none of those variations where we get money, where we are able to do all these projects that we need to do, none of those variations don't include borrowing money and a significant amount of money in order to get these things done. We've got critical infrastructure projects. All of these I would say are critical, but then we have flood infrastructure projects there as well that rise to another level of criticality. So I just wanted to point that out, that next year, part of getting the shovel-ready projects going is so that we can apply for grants. Part of it is so that we can also go out for bonds. And the bonds would be paid for by the enterprise funds for the portions that are enterprise related, and by the property tax for the portions that are capital improvement related in the general capital improvement sense.
Questions? Caitlin? You don't have any?
I don't. Well, I'm interested to talk more about like the specifics of bonding. I think I have more questions about how 28 will go, and the transfers from all of the funds. $25 million in fund transfers is significant. So some of my questions are future pacing about fund balances and.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about because not all of these funds like today have that amount of money in there. We didn't really talk about water and sewer, but we have gone over those before and they haven't changed, and I'd be happy to go over them again. But we're doing water and sewer master plans in this coming year, and a lot of that is so that we can look at our rates, so we can look at the projects that are coming up for potential bonds going forward. And so there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with running a city and a lot of aging infrastructure when we're talking about deferred maintenance over decades where the city didn't have the resources to do the repairs that needed to be done, and now we're trying to catch up with all of those things. And this playground that you're talking about is one really good example of that. We're kind of behind the 8 ball now because we've had to take things out and we don't have a plan for how to repair or replace those things. So it's a good example of how deferred maintenance catches up with you, and before you know it, you're like I said, behind the 8 ball. So this year's goal again is trying to get ready for the coming years and trying to get positioned so that we can get the funding for those coming years.
And I think just as a reminder, the bonding, 25 million is a lot, but we talked about doing a bond that we wouldn't use all of that property tax money to pay off that bond, but it would help us kind of consolidate a lot of projects into one bond so that we kind of are tying up that property tax money to get these projects done. So that's kind of what, and you guys we'll have a conversation about what we would like to see in that bonding package for
Right.
28.
Well, this has 15.7 million for the property tax bond and then an additional 25 million in fund transfers. So it's also looking at water bonds, sewer bonds,
Right.
all
Yes.
the full package of all
Right.
the bonds.
Yeah, the full package is large. The biggest one in the transfers from the enterprise is the stormwater fund, and that is a big part of that has to do with the 2 projects that have to do with flooding, the 300 South Bridge and the 100 or the Main Street to 500 West, because I mean that should be paid for mostly by the stormwater fund.
Any other questions about the CIP?
I'd like to kind of echo Jason. It's not as much a question, but as we talk about these funds transfers, I would like to see what we can do to make them easy to understand for the public. I want everybody to understand what their property tax is actually paying for versus what is coming from another fund. And I want that to be like, this is tricky for me to understand, and I've been coached through it. I'd like to see what we can do to make that apparent, because I had the same confusion as you did coming into this meeting until that explanation. So it's helpful to understand that property tax is being used for those critical improvement projects that are streets and stuff like that. And that if there are parks or other things being done, they're being done from a parks fund, and that's coming through a transfer, so that people know that we're not spending that property tax on things that we didn't agree to spend it on. So,
Anybody else? Thank
Right.
you. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll refine this process. Like I said, this is all new administration, new ways of doing things. And so eventually we'll get to a point where you're actually voting on a 2 and 5 year budget in 2 to 5 years.
Okay. So, moving on. We have a public hearing for the resolution 04-2026, a resolution to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:34. And Michael.
I will save you a presentation unless you want one. I will go over a couple of points just for your information, but I'll save you looking at the screen some more. The budget has pretty much stayed the same from the tentative budget. We have made some changes, but starting off with revenue, the revenue from the general fund and the expenses from the general fund match exactly. There's a 5.818% increase in expenses in the general fund, and there's a correlating 5.18% increase in revenue as well to offset those impacts. Some of that is a rollover from this year to the coming year that we're going into for funds that weren't expended in this year. Taxes are doing really well. Again, I reported this before. Overall tax increase is about 3.5%, but in these last few months, we've been seeing a larger tax increase month over month when you compare this month to the same month last year. This year's doing a lot better. I think we have guessed that it's because of the weather and lots of different things going on, 60 years of Jeep Safari, those types of things, but we're looking at increases in taxes this year. The percentage of increase for the next year's budget is not based on what we're projecting though. It's based on the actuals from this year. So it's a 3.5% increase from the actuals for this year. Next, we have expenses, and the general fund has stayed exactly the same as the way it was presented to you as far as the bottom line goes. We did have to move a couple little things around, but the bottom line stayed the same at $23,900,000. And that again is a 5.1% increase or 5.2% increase. The roads fund increased, the RAP tax fund increased, the sewer fund increased, stormwater increased, and vehicles increased. And I wanted to explain those just a little bit for you. The roads increased because of striping, patching, public works yard repair work that needs to be done. And so those are projects and that's what I'm hopefully going to show you with this, is that those increases are going to go directly towards improving facilities. The RAP tax has to do, it's an increase because of MRAC fitness equipment replacement, and then that transfer for the water feature as well in the CIP. The sewer, the reason why it increased is because we had to increase our depreciation. Our depreciation was way low last year. And as you know about depreciation, that's not money that actually leaves the account, but we have to show it as an expense. It just never gets debited from the account. But this year is like $799,000. Coming year, $799,000. The previous year was, I think it was less than $400,000. Stormwater increases because of flood mitigation and repair. This is anticipation. A lot of it is anticipation. It's not projects, but if we have to respond quickly to flood repair, to do flood repairs, this is where the money would come from for that.
Sharing your screen for the
public. Sure. I thought people were just sick of seeing my screen. So, that's the wrong one. The presentation. Hold on just one second. I'm sorry. I exited out of this. I'll share my screen. I got it. Now that we're talking about. Okay, here we go. In just a second. There it is. Okay, so I was going over the next slide down. We talked about expenditures. I had talked about the areas that were increasing. These are the areas that are increasing. You can see at the top is the general fund. It's a 5.18% increase, which is the same as what the tentative budget was. Roads, RAP, sewer, stormwater, vehicles, those all did increase for the reasons that I had just laid out. The only one that I hadn't gotten to yet was vehicles. And the reason why that is increasing is because public works and utilities have requirements this year that need to be met, and they're large pieces of equipment, but money is being transferred from enterprise funds into the vehicle fund in order to offset those expenses. One of the things is a backhoe, for instance, and these things get pretty expensive. It's not just a vehicle, but equipment that we'll have for a long period of time that they rely on. So any questions on that? So the total increase over all budgets for operations is 7.9%. The total increase for the general fund, which is the largest budget, which has almost all of our departments in it, is 5.18%. So when we talk about budget increases, we'll generally say the budget increase was about 5% or 5.2%. The 7.9, most of that, as I showed you just now, is in enterprise funds and is coming from user funds to to pay for things that are funded by water, sewer, stormwater, things like that. So CIP, I won't go over this any more than I already did, but the total CIP, if you include water, sewer, and stormwater, is about $19 million for this coming year. The biggest thing in there is in the water, and that's the $5.6 million for the water tank. Going forward, that's, the water tank on Spanish Valley. So that's the biggest expense, one expense by far. The rest of the expenses we already talked about, which are the design costs for those, getting those projects shovel ready. So my recommendation to the council is that you approve the final budget. I believe it's as lean as we can get it, and be able to meet all of the requirements that we have to provide the services that the council has prioritized for the community.
Questions on the budget? Oh, it's a public hearing. Anybody from the public hearing would like to speak on the budget? Council, questions? I have one question on revenues on the budget. How come RAP tax is 0 for 26 and 27?
We moved RAP tax into its own fund.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have to go to that fund to find the revenue.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions?
So I have a question, and there's some nuance to it, so I'm going to phrase it carefully. I'm curious why, when we decided to go from the housing stipend for PD to that becoming a line of duty stipend, why that decision didn't come in front of council. And I want to preface this by saying I've been spending a lot of time with PD. I have a whole new outlook on their budget and their deservingness of a line of duty fee. They do put themselves in harm's way to protect our community. I have a whole new respect for that. What I am uncomfortable with, and what still sticks with me, is that it was kind of a staff decision to go from something that was supposed to support housing to something that's a line of duty choice, or a line of duty stipend. And while I have no problem with them receiving that line of duty stipend, I feel like that should have come to council in a budget discussion to say, hey, we no longer need to provide them with this housing stipend. We have a fully staffed department and we're very excited about that, but we would still like to provide them with a line of duty stipend. How does council feel about that versus that decision happening at a staff level? I feel like that would have been more transparent if it would have come in front of council.
Well, a couple of things. One, it was not a budget amendment. It wasn't a budget change, and budget changes need to come to council because they're changes in expenses and those types of things. This was a change to what it was called, and it wasn't just a staff decision. This was discussed with certain people. There were people involved in making this decision, and it was just the change of, basically the way that I see this is that, and I do this sometimes with the budget. I'll change, like I showed you, the Main Street to 500 West project. I'm going to change that to Cross Creeks project. I changed the name of what it was to be more consistent with what I believed the intent of it was. I know that it was called a housing allowance, but it is an incentive, and pure and simple, it is incentive pay. And so we had talked about it internally and talked about what potentially we could call it to just call it what it was, so that it didn't come across like some employees have housing issues and other employees don't, when really this is all about getting officers to come to Moab, to work here, to come from up north and stay here for periods of time so that we could build our police department back. So I didn't call it an incentive pay. I called it a line of duty pay. We talked about it. We went around a little bit, but the reality is that it's not a housing allowance either. It is an incentive device for the city to give money to officers so that they have a perk, so that working here looks better than working in other places.
And my understanding was the previous city manager, that when we implemented this, they wanted it to be a line of duty pay, And the previous city manager said no, because we were trying to get offices here and housing was the issue then. And so that's when it was like, that was what it was initially supposed to be called. So we just decided, well, let's just call it that.
Okay, and I mean, I'm not, again, not unhappy with it in its existence and not unhappy with calling it a line of duty. It just felt like when it was called housing, it was like, well, do other departments need this support? Is this something that we should repurpose or otherwise? And it felt strange to have it go from like, no, we won't talk about repurposing it for other departments or otherwise, we're just gonna call it line of duty and keep it as is. Which I feel like I was confused about, which to me says that could have been mildly more transparent. But otherwise, that was my only sticking point, and I wanted to say that out loud in a public forum.
And I just want to say that just for anyone listening, the amount that is in the budget today is the same amount that was in the budget previously. No changes were made to the amount that officers receive for this incentive pay, which is $500 a month.
Correct.
And this is sworn officers only.
Anything else?
I just want to point out that the reason we're not having a more robust discussion about this is because we have had these budget workshops all spring, and I think Caitlin deserves the credit for really pushing that and encouraging a little bit more development of the budget as we go along in the process. And so thank you very much. I mean, it was I thought that this budget process was very informative and very well done. So.
Yeah. I was gonna say, see, that's exactly what I was just gonna say too.
No, you
like less eloquent than you do. No, I was gonna say, like, I don't really have a lot of questions because we've been doing this, for the last, 8 weeks, and stuff. And so it's been a good process this year. I appreciate it.
And we'll continue that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:47. And next up, we have a consideration of resolution 04-2026, a resolution to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 26-27. Motion.
I move to adopt resolution 04-2026, approving the final budget and setting the certified tax rate for the city of Moab for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Motion by Tony, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Jason. Discussion, Tawny?
No.
Jason? No. Anybody else?
None.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
All right, let's do roll call. Miles?
Aye.
Caitlin?
No.
Colin?
Aye.
Connie? Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Caitlin in opposition. All right, moving on. Our last agenda item is the golf course. Consideration of updated commercial lease agreement between Moab City and the Moab Golf Club.
So I'll give a brief introduction. We have Richard and Robbie here to talk as well. Going back to the presentation. So go ahead and come up, guys. The Moab Golf Course. The Moab Golf Course is land that's owned by the city of Moab, but it's run by the Moab Golf Club. It's an 18-hole golf course that was established in the 1960s and has always been run by a third party. To my knowledge, the city of Moab has never run the golf course. We didn't establish the 18 holes. It was something that was established by the golf club. And we've been working with them for a long time on this, and we do appreciate the relationship we have with them. The golf course is located in the city's water source protection area, which is one of the biggest reasons why this area is not developed and is a golf course as opposed to condominiums or something like that. So people see a golf course up here and wonder if that's the right thing for the area. And I think, yeah, it is in this case, because it does provide a good protection area for our water source. Our wells are located, a lot of our wells are located in this area. I have a new lease that I want to show to you. The last lease was signed for the golf course for 10 years. It was signed in 2020. This last couple of years, we've been talking with the golf club about this because we have some things we wanted to iron out and to straighten out a little bit that I'll talk about in the next slide. And we asked one of our attorneys who works with us, Chris McEnany, who works out of Grand Junction, if he could work on this contract for us, and he drew up this contract for us. The highlights of the lease, and then I'll turn it over to these guys because I know you have a lot of questions for them. The highlights of the new lease are that it would go from 10 to 15 years. The lease right now expires in 2020. This would take it out to 2041. The rent formula is largely unchanged. However, in the old lease, it just said something about a percentage of profits, and we tried to explain what profits are, what net profits are, as opposed to total profits of the golf course. But the formula for rent is basically unchanged from the two. It just is it's explained better, I think, in the new one. It does provide for city-backed funding for capital, which we've talked about. It's not a given. It's something that has to be approved and that they have to have qualifying projects for. They just can't come and withdraw. They don't have an ATM that they can go to with a pin and just withdraw the money. It's something that we would work together on. The new lease has enhanced public access and environmental protections, which you can find in those. And if you want references to any of the areas where I'm talking about, I can give those to you. It's a more formal and modern municipal lease structure, where the old one was, as you saw when I sent it to you, is very short. This one has a lot more protections for the city, including, but not limited to, expanded insurance and liability protections for the city that are necessary for us to have. The main goal in getting this new lease going forward was to establish who had responsibility for what at the golf course. Because the golf course is yes, the golf course property is owned by the city of Moab, but it's a golf course because the people who lease it made it a golf course and run it as a golf course. We like it as a golf course. We want it to be a golf course. But I want to be clear on that. The city owns the property, not the operations of the golf course. The operations are run by the Moab Golf Club and have been for quite a while. So I think the lease is pretty good. I know there's questions about it, and I think the mayor we were gonna talk a little bit about this and then see where you guys want to go. But I think the main thing you guys want tonight is to ask the golf club questions. So I'll just turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, I just want to make clear, there is a lease in effect right now, so there's no urgency. If you guys feel like you need more information, we need to look a little closer at the lease, have more conversation, we can absolutely table this and it's not gonna harm anybody. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's something that you might want to consider doing tonight. So, Robbie, Richard, tell us.
Well, thank you for having us. We have been partners since the 60s. Our pardon me, our organization is called the Moab Country Club, which is probably a bad name because it's not a country club. You can join the country club, which would allow you to serve on the board, and that would be about where your membership ends. So we operate this, we try and make this something that is attainable for citizens of Moab. Now, we live here. We want this to be a place where people can afford to play golf. Kind of no doubt this is definitely funded by tourists. You know, the tourists are going to probably pay going to pay the highest rate. And with that model, we have been able to keep prices affordable. I don't think that we give away golf to locals. You know, I think that can always be kind of a problem, that you have a course that nobody's paying for, and I think, as you can see in some of the fees that we have, you know, we have multiple levels of golf passes. So there's the rack rate, which currently is $76. That's 18 holes with a cart. Probably
a titch high in Utah, aside from St. George. And then when you start to get into pass rates, we offer a $45 pass, which is kind of the best local deal if you're going to be a light user. And we have another one that's $200. And all of these, there's an additional daily fee everybody pays as well. And so those were the daily fees were instituted to, to make it to where somebody who plays the most is going to pay incrementally more as they keep on playing. So it wasn't like somebody just plunked down $500 and then they could play 300 days a year, and then it netted their cost down to $5 playing golf. The infrastructure at the golf course is aging, so the biggest issue we have is the irrigation system. So the irrigation system out there is now probably 40 years old. When the course was expanded in the late 80s, and it's just a constant battle to keep that running, working, and able to make the course good enough that we can charge a high enough rate to everybody that we can sustain our operations. And
what could you guys, there was an issue last year. Could you talk a little bit about that and where we're at now?
Yeah,
We have heard some.
Yeah, so in 2024, we made a poor hire in the superintendent that we brought in, and consequently, the conditions of the course deteriorated. By about August, we had to make one of our greens into a temporary green, so we were playing in the 14th hole was reduced down to like 100 yards, and then just kind of a hole cut in the middle. And some of that was, somebody that came into the position. Irrigation system was definitely old, and so from that point in 2024, we made a change in personnel. In 2025, hired a guy, and he did a wonderful job of getting the course back. We still were playing on the temporary green through June of 2025. And then by 2025, we had all 18 holes. And by the fall of last year, the course was back in really good condition. I mean, you're not playing Augusta National, which is a famous golf club, but the conditions were back to where I think everybody was proud to be playing there, and then over the winter, it's been a dry winter, it's been a hot winter. We have a 50% water reduction from Ken's Lake, so that's obviously going to be an issue moving forward. We're going to have a lot of brown spots. We're going to go backwards in some of the conditioning. There's kind of no doubt that's what's going to happen when we're operating with that much less water. And I would say that's probably one of the more unique features of our relationship. So we use well number 7 from the city, and that's primarily in the off season when Ken's Lake isn't on. But the primary water source is Ken's Lake water, and so that's probably one of the benefits of the city is that we're transferring water from there and putting it into where the city draws their water for other wells for culinary use.
And that's one of the changes with the new lease is that before they could have used well 7 if Ken's Lake wasn't working well, like this year. The new lease has exclusion times that I work with Obion, where it's our peak times during the year. The golf course can't actually use the well, so that we can ensure that we can make enough water or treat enough water to get to the public for those times.
Can I give a quick overview of how we got here?
Sure.
Just for those who don't know me, I'm Richard Cotton. I am president of the Golf Club. A couple of years ago, as Rob was talking about back in 24, when you're having all the problems, we also had a lot of flash flood damage across some of the holes. We had rocks washed across some of them. We had damage to our irrigation system. So we had formed a small committee to look at what was going on. And that committee came back and said, you know, we should be doing a lot of capital improvements. We don't have any money to do any capital improvements. So, lo and behold, around a year ago, the governor's office advertised for one of their grants, an rural economic opportunity grant or something. So we realized we had to go out and seek help from the city, the county, whomever we could go to. But we needed a plan, just like you're going to do a plan for the ball fields and the playgrounds and everything. We needed a plan that we could say, what's the current condition of the course? What do we want it to be? What do we need to do? So we applied to the governor's office. Lo and behold, it was one of the top projects. It was the top project in Grant County. Working with Michael, with the city, we now have a pot of approximately $100,000. We've hired a consultant. They're here. As part of that project, they'll be looking at the physical conditions, what's there. But most important part of that study is the economic impact analysis that we're going to do with the National Golf Foundation. What they are going to look at are all the tourist trends and how many room rates you can expect from your golfers, et cetera, and hopefully come back to us with a very positive economic impact that we can show to you, to the county and others, that the course generates X millions of dollars a year in various taxes. So we know how important it is. Next weekend, we have almost 200 ladies coming to Moab to golf. Around 20 of them are from Moab. That's how important, that's how many people we get coming to our golf course for our tournaments. And every day you go out there, where are you from? Oh, we're from Tucson, we're coming through. Oh, we're from Salt Lake. So many of our players are from out of town. And we need that revenue to help us grow. We need your support. This agreement that we're looking for tonight, this lease modification or new lease, the $150,000 that Michael talked about, that's seed money to us after we get our master plan, which should be done the end of June. That will lay out opportunities. What do we have to start to look at? They're not construction drawings. We would need to take it to a next step. But what we hope to do is identify, we need an irrigation system, but what are the other things we need? We've talked about adding pickleball, perhaps. We have our snack bar, people can play and go to the snack bar. We've talked about other improvements. But we need to establish through this master plan, what is the vision? What do we need? And your support is going to be tremendously helpful to us because we see us as the Moab Golf Club. It's part of Moab. It's not a private course. We see ourselves as a municipal facility. So.
Yeah, it's not exclusive. It's definitely inclusive for everybody. A couple things, our junior golf program is really popular. We usually have 75 to 100 kids in that each year. In the rounds report that I gave you, you could see we do about 500 rounds of golf from kids each year, which super proud of that. Hopefully some of these scientists will become part of that. In the short term, with that 150,000, we already have started some upgrades to the irrigation to kind of get us past where we currently exist, to where we can get all of the heads at least on a central computer, and we started, so our previous superintendent, he moved on to a different club, unfortunately for us. But when he did that, they're redoing their irrigation system. So we purchased their controllers. Now we need to purchase the computer software from Toro. So this part of that money, that's what we would use the 150,000 for, and we see that, I think, as kind of just like a line of credit that we want to take that and we certainly don't want to take the full amount without having something ready to put in place to make an improvement and then start paying that. And if we can, we want to pay it back faster than in the 15 years. And then if you have any other questions, but that's in the short term, that's really what, like that 150,000 is direct investment into what exists out there currently, because this master plan that Richard talked about, I mean, that's a long ways down the road, and we need to look at the immediate future and health of the irrigation system, and in turn, that's what will make the course the best playability that it can be.
Colin.
Well, I believe the golf course, and especially if it's well maintained, well functioning, is a great community amenity, both for locals and visitors. As we're considering this pretty long duration lease, with pretty significant financial obligation from the city, we were presented yesterday with your financials, which to me, I didn't find confidence inspiring in terms of getting repayment on the money that we would be loaning you through this lease agreement. Can you please tell us what you're doing right now, what you're focused on to bring your financial situation around and recover it to where we would feel better about?
Yeah, so that's great point, and we definitely operate on a shoestring budget. So COVID was probably the best thing that ever happened to golf, and it was probably the first time that we had a net profit, and we paid the city, and that was in 2020. In 2021, we were like zero. I don't think there ended up being an actual payment in 2021, but as we in 2026 currently, I think this is kind of a trend in Moab in general. Things are looking really good. We're up almost 30% right now. So I feel confident that COVID boost, aside from 2024, the end of 2024 through the first part of 2025, was just an absolute killer in our brand. And I feel confident now that the course is back in good enough shape that, we're busy. And the busier we are, the more we're generating, as Richard spoke about, it's getting the high end rack rate, at 76. So in 2020, the last half of 2024 and the first half and all of 2025, we reduced our rate, which, that's going to make a huge difference now, because we're almost like, it's almost a 10% increase in revenues, but that would mean we're at about a 20% increase in traffic, which hopefully those trend lines continue. And that would mean that, always managing expenses and trying to get that to where those things line up. You know, using some of this money as kind of a long-term payment. You know, when we don't have to replace every valve, if we can make a bigger investment at one time to replace valves and controllers, and then have that spread out over time, I think gives us an opportunity to repay that. But I can see your point that if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, we were living off of our success in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, I guess I'll dive in a little further on that because you did have a good year in 21. I think COVID and the community continued to boom in 22, but you haven't turned a profit since then. And you've been burning cash in a way that, you know, makes me feel for sure like I don't think it's the right decision for the city to sign a 15-year lease, because I think that also gives indication that we're continuing status quo. And I think we're having this conversation right now because it's not status quo, and you guys are doing that master plan because we need to shift into a new direction. And so, yeah, so just kind of leaning further into that, I'm curious why you reduced your rates, even a couple times, even coming into this year. Looking at the user data that you sent us, it appears as though there hasn't been a significant change. Looking at other course rates, Moab is still significantly lower than other municipal small courses. Looking 2021 to 2025, income has gone up $30,000, expenses have gone up $200,000 year to year. So one side of the budget is growing, one side is not. I'm curious why you don't produce budgets as a board and as an organization. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about the finances. And I think thinking about, at least from my perspective, I don't think that I'm alone sitting up here on this, but thinking about providing a loan for irrigation, I think that can't be thought about in a 15-year loan term payment. I think that needs to be thought about in a much more aggressive timeline within the context of a master plan. $350,000 is also going to be a drop in the bucket of what the capital cost is going to be that comes with this master plan. So yeah, I would love to hear what you're thinking about in terms of increasing your revenues beyond, yeah, I think even in terms of increasing green fees and rates and all of that.
I think with the master plan, it's probably trying to introduce new revenue streams. You know, so one of the things that's doing an enhanced driving range and short course, something that's very family friendly, that can attract people that don't have all the time to play a round of a typical round of golf. You know, and enhance clubhouse facilities to where that can be something that is more of a revenue driver for us going forward. I think that's what we want to see from the master plan, and the potential of what that has to increase that. I know you talked about you didn't want to have condos necessarily, but that could also be something that, you know, if not, you know, where all of that general land is, there could be something for like golf course, cabins, cottages or something.
I don't want to jinx any master planning things. My comment was more why the entire property isn't developed. But I do want to say really quick, you know, when you guys came to me first, it's almost been a couple of years. There was a request because it was a downtime for you guys, for the city to participate in funding some improvements. And one of the things that I said back to you guys, if you recall, was, well, how do we know that these improvements are going to result in something. And that's where the master plan idea came from. And we were like, well, why don't we talk about this? Why don't we look at doing a master plan? And the idea, at least the spirit of it, would be that the improvements that they make should, well, we would hope anyways, go towards improving the course, which would improve playability, which would increase number of players, number of rounds played. But I think that's one thing. But I think the council is also concerned with, if you do make these changes, there's not a lot of confidence in the business practices that will need to be in place to capitalize on those changes and make sure that you are capitalizing in a way where you're bringing in more money from those improvements. So, and I think that's the main thing probably the council wants to talk about with you guys.
Yeah, and if I could, part of me is like, you guys back in the 60s or whatever built this golf course, or something, right? Is what I'm assuming happened, that there's
Uranium guys wanted.
Yeah, so at some point, Moab City said, hey, we just want the wells protected. We just want our water protected. Put a golf course on top of it, kind of do your thing, stuff is kind of what I assume kind of happened when we kind of stepped back. So at this point, I kind of feel like, should we be getting into the business of other people's businesses on, the golf course, stuff that you guys built the golf course, it's your guys' business, you guys are doing stuff on it. However, on my end of it, that I've been kind of looking at this and kind of trying to figure this out, is that we don't want to run a golf course. We don't want to get a golf course back. We want the golf course to continue on and prosper and to be, because it's a huge part of this community. I mean, it really is a great part of the community. But like these guys have said, like the finance, like we've been getting letters, and stuff, from people and saying like, like this about the golf course, this, what's your people's feelings, and there's people's whatever, is going on out there. But as I've been kind of like looking at like the financials and stuff and kind of going like, I asked Michael, I go, one of my concerns is that there's a 1.5%, that you guys give back to the city of gross profits. And that's only happened like once.
Net profit.
Net profits, yeah. in like
difference.
Yeah, net profits in the last, however many years, was that, I think that year that you're talking about, it was $560 or something like that. And so but then I was like asking Michael, like, well, how come we don't do 1.5% of gross,
And that was what the lease was in 2000 to 2010.
Yeah. So I was told, I was like, no, those guys said if we did 1.5% of gross profits for the year, it would put the golf course out of business, but when you do 1.5% of 1.2, it's $18,000, and which is basically $1,500 a month, and in my head, I'm going like, you guys get this golf course that's beautiful, amazing for $1,500, or this property, I should say. And if we say 1.5 of gross, it's going to put you guys out of business, and stuff. It was like, that was kind of concerning on my end of it. It's like, wow, $18,000 in rent. I'm not doing that, that just kind of struck me. But then when I looked at the financials and stuff, it was, every year it was in the whole like $78,000, in the whole $36,000, in the whole $90,000. And my question is that an accounting function? Is that like a depreciation, that's plugged into that, which takes it down to that amount, or are you guys really going in the hole each year, $78,000, $80,000, $90,000 each year? Where's that money coming from? If you guys, and if it is an accounting function where you're taking depreciation, what is the profit when you put that depreciation back in again? What's your EBITDA? Because there's no way you guys are staying in business, I would think, if you guys are losing $80,000 a year over 15 years. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, and I get the whole taxes thing, whatever, stuff you want to give, but also too, from the city's point of view, if we were getting a little bit of rent each year, if we were getting $18,000 and just putting it into an account that helped us maintain the wells upon that property, which everybody's using, that's a benefit to the Moab City taxpayers, if instead of us having to pay that out of pocket and stuff. So that's helping you to keep your business going, if that makes sense.
But there are things like the state charges, you're not a Utah resident, you pay an extra $18 on top of your greens fee.
It's not enough.
No, so the state charges?
Not here. In
At a
on
state
the
course,
side.
like Wasatch Mountain or.
Right, so they charge any out-of-stater. And other cities around the country, sometimes, like, in California primarily, like Torrey Pines.
Right.
Resident, you can pay, senior resident, it might be $38. If I walk over there and I want to play, it's about, maybe on the south coast, about $262. Same course, same.
No, and I get
So
that.
we've
Yeah.
looked at, we've made a decision that, at least now, that we weren't gonna do that, because if we started, we wanna be a resource for our visitors. But as part of that master plan, they are gonna look at every phase of our operation.
Okay, but are you losing $80,000 a year in cash?
No.
No,
That's an accounting. That's an accounting.
the depreciation over the last 5 to 7 years has been about 35 to 45,000.
Cash
So we have,
60,000.
so there, I mean, really we could basically get to about zero. Either there would show a loss, kind of in the 2010 to 2019. Most of those years we would be able to kind of be somewhere where we were literally breaking even. And then we have the 2020, 2021 where we did well, strangely. But the last couple of years, I mean, we've hemorrhaged cash. There's kind of no doubt, and it's from conditions weren't what they needed to be, and play dropped off, reputation management got off, so all of those things, I do think that from the last half of 2025 and this first half of 2026, I'm optimistic that we can get this back to where we're definitely solvent and able to pay that. And not to mention as the fees increase, I mean, obviously that helps too. But there is a ceiling on what we can charge out there, for a public course. There is a ceiling of what you can charge, and still, you can't just say we're going to make it $200 and if 10% of the people
we don't want to make this lease something where you fail. That's like the whole goal.
Yeah.
Like it does none of us any good to make a lease that that is too much where you guys felt. And I think we want to see you guys succeed. And yeah, I mean, that's trying to figure that out.
And I think kind of back to the previous leases that we had where we did pay 1.5% of our gross. That was what the lease was, probably from like 2000 to 2010. 2008 was obviously kind of a difficult time. And so then it became, what we were paying the city didn't mean a hell of a lot to the city, but the 10 or 12,000 bucks that we were paying for that 1.5%, they're like, okay, well, you guys can keep that to keep funding your operation, to put it back into the golf course. And that was the main driver behind that. And then in 2020, the lease was going to come up, and I think it was I think it was probably done hastily, trying to get that done, and through COVID, it was, and then that was the 1.5% of the net, which, I mean, I agree with you. There hasn't been a payment other than $500. You know, and if you did say, okay, then it's 1.5% of your gross, and like you said, but I think that's something that you can stomach and say, okay, do we have $1,800 a month commitment we have to do to pay the city? But in turn, there has to be some minimum that I think the city wants to invest into their own infrastructure as far as their property. You know, it's like if we're renting this building, you know, if I want to change the light bulbs in here, that's on my dime. But if the roof's leaking on us, then I think that becomes
Absolutely. And so that's kind of like what part of my thought process was like, even if we were charging 1.5% of gross and taking that $18,000 and putting it into an account that helped maintain the golf course, you know, and the stuff, then when it came time to come up with $150,000, you know, it's easier for us to say, hey, yeah, we can take this pot that that you guys have helped build and put it back into the golf course to sustain it as, you know, a tenant landlord agreement, you know, and stuff like that, you know, or something like that. Another question that I had, like with the new lease, is that we have, you know, insurance requirements, you know, and have you guys looked into those insurance requirements and what those costs would be, and are those crazy? You know, I know sometimes it's an insurance policy, you know, could be $10,000, and is that sustainable, you know, and stuff? Or if you guys,
yeah, I kind of think our current insurance policy.
Okay.
Our current insurance would be.
We're just on it.
Within the same realm of.
Okay.
I think there might want to look at that close, because there might be some additional requirements in there. So just take a closer look at that.
You know, as I said, we don't want to charge $125 like golf courses over in St. George. We know that most of the people who are coming here to either go to Arches, to go on a hike, or Canyonlands, or they're gonna go out jeeping, or in their ATV, and that's all great. The average stay in Moab is what, 1.6 days for a visitor? I think that's what the county told us. We've been talking to the county about using TRT funds with Brian Martinez and Nick Solita and those folks, about once we figure out what we're going to be, when we complete our plan, how do we go out and how do we sell this? But we want to remain that course that we're never going to be St. George, where there's 27 golf courses and people flock here and they retire here so they golf and play all the time, unless they're me and some others who might be here. But we recognize that people are coming here for a lot of reasons, and we want to just tap in a little bit to that. And we don't want to charge them $125, $135. We're kind of caught. We're not a pub. We act like a municipal course. In reality, is how we operate. So we're not like a private course that's trying to make tens of thousands of dollars on their operation. We'd like to get some more money building up for capital, but our goal is to have something that locals can enjoy, that visitors will come and say, man, did you play that Moab course? That was great. Next time we go, we're going to stay another day. You know,
I'd like to disagree with Richard. We would like to make tens of thousands of dollars more.
And I would,
sorry, I'd love to too.
And Richard, I would push back and say that, you know, that expense is going to fall on somebody, you know, to the expense of operating this business. And, you know, what we're looking at right now is that expense falling on the city, and more importantly, falling on, as we learned, our taxpayers who, you know, property tax. And, you know, that's really concerning to me. And so I think that with everything that's been said, and I hate to cut this short or what, you know, we can keep talking about it But what I would like to, the way that I would like to proceed is to table this for tonight. And I don't feel comfortable signing this lease. I think that this lease needs to be looked at. I think the duration needs to be greatly adjusted. I think that we need to see a lot more, to build our confidence and make us feel like we're, this is a good investment for the city. And, we need to have some internal conversations, and I think the best thing to do tonight is just to not approve this lease as is, to re-examine it. I also don't want to throw out this relationship. I think that we've had this relationship for a long time. It's important to me. And so that's part of the conversation too, is how do we make sure that everybody in this relationship, feels like it's benefiting them, and how can we get it to a point where, this golf course is back to where, we are not getting comments about it, and it's operating and it's benefiting all of the community and the visitors alike. And I think that is a challenging task, but a surmountable task. And I think that we need to power on our own.
And Miles, before you speak, I would just like to say that this, when everything's going great at the golf course, we don't hear anything and we don't pay attention. And so we are a little bit remiss also, because since I've been here, I've never seen your financials. You guys have never come and talked to us about anything. And I think having an ongoing dialogue with you guys on an annual basis, once we get to that point where we're all comfortable, is something that needs to continue. Because honestly, I mean, we have not had any conversation about the golf course until tonight. And I just feel like we haven't been doing you guys any service by not having you come here and tell us about all the great things you do, all the problems that you're facing, those kind of things. We haven't had that one-on-one until tonight. And I think it's really important for us to continue to have these conversations on an annual basis. We can talk about your fees. The lease does give us the ability to change the fees. And I think if we're going to do that, we don't want to just arbitrarily make that decision. It's something that we need your feedback on if we're going to increase those fees. So I just want to make that point. This is the first time we've talked about it, and I think we need to continue to have that dialogue.
We thank you so much, because you're right. I think we've had an arm's length relationship, because you said things were going well. As the infrastructure continues to go like this, it gets harder and harder to keep it operating at the level it should.
Right.
So we really appreciate the time that we could come tonight and talk to you. And please come out to the golf course anytime you want to come out. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, we
come visit, and we'll take you around. You can see it.
And I think that's something, Richard, we want to do, is to have a little tour. But I'm going to call on Miles and then you, Tawny. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to echo, I mean, I genuinely believe that the golf course here could return to being a real asset for the community. And I laud your opinion of like wanting it to be a municipal golf course or something that is attainable for the residents of Moab. And I think at the end of the day, looking at the finances and otherwise, like that is a praiseworthy ideal, but we need to be able to have enough confidence in your ability to fulfill this lease, repay these debts. And like currently, this isn't quite it.
Tawny?
I want to echo what everybody else has said. I think that the golf course is a great asset. I am not a golfer, so I don't know what makes a good golf course.
Green grass.
Green grass. I too am concerned about the financials, and I want to kind of liken this to what we as city councilors have to do in our enterprise funds. That's our water, our sewer, and our stormwater. We're mandated that those funds support themselves. We don't want to raise your sewer rates every year, and we don't want to raise your water rates. Sometimes we have to, and we're mandated to. They are supposed to support themselves. And I would feel a lot better if I felt like the golf club or the golf course was supporting itself like those funds do. So.
Caitlin and then Jason, and then I'm going to ask for a motion to table.
Yeah. And just to that point, I've looked up, it's $17.50 for 9 holes so Moab, it's $10, has been $10 for the last 6 years. $750 to run 9 holes at Carbon County. It is $36 at the Hideout in Monticello. It is $19 at the St. George Municipal Club to walk 9 holes. I'm looking at the websites right now. I think there's a significant difference, and so that's and I want for you guys to know that the city is bringing all these things up because we want to support you. We want to support the club board and starting to turn these conversations around. It's not us trying to attack you. It's us wanting to just have open conversations because at this point, the finances are fully public for the community to see. And I think that is going to be a little painful, but I think it's important for the club to rebuild and succeed with this master plan. Some things I'm thinking about in terms of the contract, just starting out for consideration, I would love to advocate for a city council person to sit on the board during this shorter term lease. I'm definitely supportive of a shorter term lease. I think any capital contributions need to be through a separate contract and not in this lease directly, and should be coming to the council anytime those are requested. And I think those are some of my big ones. Jason?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of echo that too and stuff, and I just want to make it very clear that I think all of us want to see the golf club succeed. We want to see it prosper. We want to see it thrive, and it's on your guys' shoulders to pull that off. And we want to be a good partner with you in making that happen, stuff. And so I think that as we go through this process that we don't come across as being like, oh, you guys, we don't support you, because we do, but we want to see, we want to see it move forward in a good, positive way that thrives for the community and everything for it. So, yeah. So I think for sure. Yeah.
Michael, do you want to take one?
Yeah, just really quick. I think I know we want to get going, but we have come a ways with our discussions, and the golf course, in my opinion, has, a year and a half ago when I first took this job, I'd go get my hair cut, and I was afraid to tell people I was a city manager because they were talking about the golf course and how the city isn't supporting the golf course. We had conversations about this, and I've seen these guys kind of pull themselves up by their bootstrings a little bit, and I've gone out there and observed things from going from not a great condition to a pretty good condition. Now, that doesn't answer all of the questions that you guys have or anything like that, and I think your questions are 100% valid, because you are subsidizing the golf course by not charging them any rent. You are subsidizing the golf course, so I think it's completely appropriate for you to delve into this. And I'm happy to continue to work with these guys as we go forward. We do have a lease right now. We do appreciate you guys running the golf course, because otherwise it would be a liability for the city. That property would be a liability for the city, and we do appreciate that. And I look forward to working with you some more and seeing if we can get to a good place.
What would happen?
So what would happen next is I would meet with the council over the next couple of months. It's going to be a little slow, but we have a contract right now, or we have a lease right now. We're okay. And we'd come up with a couple of concepts. One of them would be a shorter term lease, and it would have a lot of the things that we talked about in the lease that I've proposed here tonight. But it would be shorter term as we work towards some resolutions.
Right, and I think, we meet on a monthly basis. We'll bring Michael, and I meet with the council, and, you guys will be a part of it. It's a negotiation. And we just, like everybody said, we want the golf course to be the best that it could be. And so, I'm thinking probably fall, August or September, by the time we had, we all, maybe sooner. We'll see where it all goes. I know some of us want to come out. I haven't been out to the golf course in a long time. And so I'd like to maybe come out and hit some balls and check out the course, and not with Steve by myself. And maybe with Jason. So,
But
We've been out a while.
I know. Anyway, I think that's where we'll go with this, you guys, and, you know, come to something that we can all feel comfortable with and that helps support you and makes us feel really good about where we're going. Looking forward to that master plan. I will be meeting with the consultants on Monday, I believe, so I'll get a better sense of where they're going and what the whole thing is, and I'll share that all with these guys. And, we'll just go from there. So more to come.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Motion by Miles, second by Colin. Any further discussion, Miles?
No, I would love to, like we said, I would love to see this be successful, but we need to make sure that we're gonna see a possible return on this and make sure that this is gonna be a good thing for the city.
Colin? Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think, motion passes. I think, one thing that I really want us to see is that we meet with you guys at least on an annual basis. Whatever outcome we come with, I just feel it's really important. We've been neglectful in making sure that you come and talk to us and update us, and that's something I think is really important, just to maintain that partnership.
It was a good start.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about that landlord improvement, that the pump thing.
Yes,
$25,000 vow.
yeah. All right, thanks you guys. Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Have a
That's-
good night, folks.
Yep, you too. That's the end of our general business, and we will move on to city manager updates.
So I think I've exceeded my words for this evening, so I'll make this quick. Arts and Ag happened last week, and we did have a booth at that. The city, Obi and Levi were there, as well as myself and Alexi, and Lisa Church was there as well. And we answered questions. We talked to people, had a good time. It was a great event, and we talked mainly about water conservation at this one. The business license renewals will be going out via email. So if you're listening, you have a business in town, look for your business license renewals. They will be coming via email starting on Monday, May 18th. Just met recently with the Southeastern Utah Watershed Council, looking at priorities for the southeastern watershed of Utah and some regional priorities. I think the group is going to be getting together to rate those priorities and send those up to the state. Coming up soon, I will report on those when they have a list. We have a police officer opening right now on our website, but we also had a police officer that just recently graduated from Post. And Brandon Woodward just graduated, and he was graduated with honors apparently, and was awarded the Physical Fitness Award for his entire academic class, or academy class. And he was sworn in as a Moab City police officer today. And that is it for me.
Thank you, Michael. Miles?
Okay. I'm pretty light today, so I had a nice meeting with Michael about a variety of budget options on the 30th. I also went to Arts and Ag and got to see the city booth in action. Good to see them getting that water conscious information out there. So we had P&Z on the 23rd. Sorry, I had to remember the date there. It was fairly simple. They had the housing task force update that you guys got to see today. So that was the majority of the meeting. Otherwise, there were some bylaw amendments that needed to be made based off of new state legislature requirements. And then they're continuing to go through that land use summary, and it's all about putting uses into buckets so that they can figure out how to build the new zoning we're going to have. And then today I also worked with Alexi, Val, and Lisa to do some social media about the Utah Community Clean Energy, also known as URC. We're starting to put out some information about that and what people need to know about that program as we get started in early 2027. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Miles. Caitlin?
I also was at Arts and Ag. Levi actually gave me a pretty hard time for not coming over until the end. But loved it. Happy early Public Works Week next week also. And otherwise, I just had a housing task force meeting. You guys heard the update. There's been a few conversations leading up to that, but we also had a pretty extensive conversation about the interlocal agreement. And I contemplated saying some of these things when they were presenting earlier, but the big reasons why we're talking about those is because the task force doesn't follow OPMA requirements. It's kind of this weird interlocal task force that was supposed to be a task force, but it's been around for 15 years consistently, but isn't through any particular like city or county or HASU. It should kind of exist in the middle. So we're having conversations about updating that agreement to make it more clear kind of what city count, like who the host is, start posting on open public meetings, kind of formalize that body. I think, and we talked about kind of formatting it to be a little more like trail mix, where it's full community with different housing related representatives. So we have more of a diversity, and it's not just me and Johanna and Ben Riley in
Have you guys ever thought about becoming a 501c3?
Well, no, I think we all just, in addition to our 501c3/public jobs, volunteer time towards it. But I think that is a long-term question of, you know, a lot of other bodies that we report to, committees, that kind of thing, have staff reporting, have kind of reporting requirements. And so it's, you know, is this the direction that city and county want to formally continue to have community-wide housing conversations? Does that run through a nonprofit or through the housing authority moving forward? I think that's also a request for budget. We're kind of getting to a point where it's too much volunteer labor without dedicated like staff funding commitments. So I think in any direction, you know, I think we're seeking clarity. So we talked about that agreement for a little while. I think that'll start coming. We have a joint city county housing subcommittee meeting next Monday to really start even negotiating city versus county on that. And then otherwise for the task force, we are moving forward on the housing town hall again in July. That's going to be a lot more expanded, a lot more kind of booth outreach opportunities, bringing in direct property managers and realtors and lenders, and having a more kind of extensive half-day event. And yeah, those are the most exciting. And that's all that I had. Thanks, Keaton. Yeah, Colin?
First, I just want to point out that our friends from Jeep have sat through this entire meeting. So if anyone questioned their commitment to that, or this partnership, or maybe they just don't have any place to go, or I don't know if they're sleeping here, or
We actually didn't tell you they're going home with you guys tonight.
they are.
so-
Oh, it's like this is something.
You mean we never question why Lizzie's here?
Have the Jeep bike bus.
That's right. I'm pretty light too. I had, so on the 29th, the mayor and I attended that, the Up the Creek, the citizen scientist, presentation at Up the Creek. And I thank you for inviting them to the meeting. That means so much. And honestly, that's just one of the best perks of our job, to be able to go and represent the city at those wonderful little community events. And, and just big kudos to Katie, a friend of mine who's the teacher for that class, and really, went out of her way to create a really, really amazing program for them. On the 30th, I had a solid waste meeting, just a regular talk about landfill closures, equipment purchases, and all that fun stuff. On the 6th of May, I met with a downtown business owner. We're trying to develop a plan to create some kind of system for our core downtown businesses to have a little bit more of a sort of a unified voice with the city, and some kind of a force multiplier effect for their input in our governing of the city. They are our economic engine. So I'll keep you in the loop as things progress. On the 12th, that's today, just before this meeting, I met with a bunch of different stakeholders to continue talking about bike access into Arches National Park. And the focus right now is both developing the park's infrastructure, putting shoulders on roads and bike paths and connecting different high interest spots with both pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, and then also looking at developing the entrance into Willow Springs to allow bicycles to access the park in a different way than vehicles on pavement. And that is it for me.
Thanks, Clint. Tony.
I really don't have anything. I didn't have any meetings since our last meeting. I just hope everybody that was a mom or a mother figure or a fur baby mom had good Mother's Day. And I did celebrate my 30th wedding anniversary last week. Happy anniversary.
All right.
Thank you. Jason.
I don't have much either. I didn't have anything till today, which I drive back from Salt Lake because my watched my last kid compete in a track meet, and then hopped in the car and drove back down here for
Your last kid?
What did you do
last
with the other
kid.
ones?
We're gone. Yeah, my last sporting event for the high school, and stuff.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The
Last
high school
kid.
career as a
Last
dad
kid,
is over.
yeah.
No.
And then I listened to the travel council meeting that I was supposed to be at in person, but they had a really good meeting today and talked about a lot of really good things. One of the things that they did talk about that I thought was pretty interesting was they had from the film commission, from the state film commission, Valerie, I think his name, came and talked in that the state kind of reduced the tax credit, the film tax credit, from 12 million to 3 million. And so it's going to have a pretty big impact, and stuff. And they were talking about how, last year we saw this big bump because of the tax credit, and we had Godzilla that filmed here and another movie filmed here, and those movies are going to be being released. Godzilla's going to get released in the spring.
Oh, nice.
And they're trying to do,
It is
to do some next spring of 27, March 27. And, is it spring still? It's been a long day.
Almost. Hey,
That's a
I
lot.
like spring.
It's been a long day. I'm on my third monster. So,
You only had one meeting today.
yeah, and then it sounded like that, and I don't know if the mayor has more information on it, but there is kind of an agreement in the works between the county, city, and the state to do transportation into Arches.
No.
Oh.
We'll talk
Okay.
about that.
Anyway,
There's no
and
agreement
that
with the city on that one.
and some thoughts on that. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. Like everybody else, I don't have a whole lot. I was on the river all last week, which was great to be disconnected. Really enjoyed it. We had lovely weather, no water, but lovely weather. A lot of hiking. And so I attended the Arches shuttle meeting yesterday with the county. And I don't know anything about an agreement. I know that they have gotten they're working with the Park Service to get a CMA so that they can start shuttles in the park on September 1st of this year. And they plan to do a pilot September, October of this year, and then March, April, May, June of next year. It looks like they're going to have 10, 15 person bands. There was some talk about how we integrate the mat into this, but I think it's more, having a drop up point within town and people can take the mat to get there. The Park Service is pretty, they want to make sure it's a single shuttle that goes from town into the park as opposed to a shuttle from town to the visitor center into the park. They just feel like that's how it should work. And it looks
Going to manage it.
Yes, the county, no, it's gonna be, well, I don't know, they have to put it out, they're working with VIA, who's our people downtown, or, so they probably are gonna put it out for contract with somebody.
Who's they?
The county.
Oh, okay.
And so it's gonna be 2.5 million, it looks like, the Park Service has $1 million from Centennial funding for 250 this year. They have some funding available so that they would put up $1 million. County's going to Transportation Commission on Friday to see if they can get another million. And then it looks like the county is considering the $500,000 out of their budget. That none of that's been approved yet, but this is what the conversation was on Monday. So we'll see where it all goes. I'll continue to go to those meetings and keep you informed. Met with Melody, the chair from the county commission on Monday also, just talk about some city county issues, and she and I will meet again in a couple weeks. And then on Thursday, we have an infrastructure tour out at the site to look at what infrastructure they want to keep for future development. And I don't know, Michael, if you're going to be able to go to that with.
We had two meetings at the same time. I think we need to
Oh, you-
coordinate.
Right,
Yeah.
which one?
yeah.
Okay. I
So
think I'll do infrastructure. and-
I can send, or, yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. Anyway, that's all I have, and we do not have a closed session this evening, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
Like most to adjourn.
Motion second. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Discussion.
Jason Miles. Woo! Oh, no, we don't have a discussion.
Yeah.